In the 13 years I've been single, guys always ask me, why are you still single? Assuming that because I'm all around a good catch on paper, I'll be snatched up the moment I'm available in the dating pool. But no, I'm not a rental property in New York, and even though I said multiple times that I was open to being in a relationship for many years, I actually really was not. And I'm so glad and happy that I've stayed single for so long, and here's why. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for being here. I talk about anything and everything holistically to help you uncover your potentials. After a boy broke my heart when I was 14, I constantly told people that I was ready to be in another relationship, but what I've come to realize was that I never ended up being in one because I was seeking out partners for the wrong reasons. And one of the most jarring ones is looking for a partner like looking for a trophy. I think this is so normalized in their society that honestly most people don't even bat an eye about it, but if you think about the way we talk about our ideal partners, we end up reducing people to like a set of checklists, like job titles, incomes, physical features, and at best a few personality traits like kind and funny. And we have just taken on this idea that a partner becomes another accomplishment or achievement for us to brag about, because the partner ends up representing an ideal that we ultimately don't have in ourselves that we want to show off to the world. Like if your partner's hot, then that's a reason to be proud even though your hotness status has not changed at all. Or if your partner is super successful, then that becomes another channel to make you appear more successful. And so many movie cliches are based off this idea of finding someone who looks perfect on paper and, you know, with a perfect face, body, and life, but the main character always settles for a less perfect, usually average but nicer partner. And that cliche just continues to sell and sell because we really haven't moved on from that narrative at all. And I took on that mentality for at least the first 10 years when I wanted to be in a relationship, where I just carried this invisible set of criteria in my head. And if the guys were interested in me, didn't check any of those boxes, then they were out, no questions asked. If they weren't going to fulfill my picture perfect image, then they weren't going to be worthy of my time. And I think a big part of it was just that I didn't have a very solid sense of my own identity, and I ended up projecting all my fantasies of myself onto the potentials of a partner. Basically subconsciously seeking someone who can fulfill my visions for myself and kind of having that bleed over effect from them rather than actually just going out there to become that version for myself. And I actually have gone on a few dates with guys who did stand for everything that checked my boxes, only to realize that going on a date with them actually just felt more like listening to their stories of how I can just be like them and, you know, kind of getting some inspo for my own self-actualization. Almost like going on a career networking event, but just replacing some high up management title with someone I could idealize romantically. And I think this lack of self in terms of identity is very common for a lot of people, where the most obvious manifestations are when people completely lose themselves in relationships and let their partners define them, or taking on their partner's qualities almost immediately after they settle, to even those whose literal personality is just being defined by being a serial dater. Just all around a very objectifying approach to relationships because we don't take on that personal responsibility of becoming that person we wish to date. So when I realized this and actually became the lover I was fantasizing in my head, I honestly stopped seeking relationships altogether. Another wrong way I was seeking out relationships was also honestly just to please others, more so as a social tool rather than actually seeking one out for my own deepest needs. When we have such invisible but powerful images of what a great and perfect life looks like, the power overtakes us. We end up feeling like we need to be in relationships just because. Like just because all our parents and grandparents have been in relationships, just because everyone around us are in relationships, or because society just equates relationships with happiness by default, and somehow we also need to mirror them and uphold that responsibility too. And I honestly didn't ask why for the longest time, like why being in a relationship actually made people happier. When I saw that actually there were so many broken families and relationships around me, I don't think I've actually ever saw a relationship in my life and thought to myself, wow, that's it. That's how I imagine a healthy relationship to be like. So I was just trying to be in relationships just to people please and prove to those around me that I could in fact be in one. I think there are many explanations for this, but the older that I get, the more I realize it really doesn't come down to whether the relationship means much to me, but actually how they just make other people comfortable. I think deep down, everyone just has this deep fear of being single for the rest of their life, of feeling unloved and dying alone. And so all of our friends and family, no matter how well-intentioned, are just really uncomfortable with the idea of people being single because that triggers that fear in them of dying alone and the idea that they're unlovable. Like I remember, I want to say it was in college when it was so common for people in New York to just say things like, it's rough out here, I'm just going to die alone. And we don't even think about why we think that way. Like, is it really that bad that we'll die alone if we all really technically die alone, partnered or not? And so for the longest time, I was just trying to escape my singlehood out of people's comforts so they didn't have to worry for me on why it's been so long since my first relationship. Like yes, parts of me did want to fall in love and really give love to someone, but the guilt and shame of being single was even more powerful than my own desire itself. And And when I was able to recognize that I'm in no way responsible for other people's comfort levels regarding my relationship status, it made being single so much more liberating and so much more fulfilling. We really don't need to be in relationships just to please others and temper their fears of being alone. Those are honestly just their own problems. Another big aspect of why I stayed single for so long is, to put it bluntly, I'm already complete. We always talk about finding our other half, but we often don't even think about what that implies about ourselves, that we're basically half empty and therefore something's wrong with us. And kind of like how we project our fantasies onto a lover, we end up highlighting how we were never whole to begin with, and therefore we try to make up for that deficit by thinking that someone will actually complete us, when in fact that warped sense of emptiness from within is really just a sign that we haven't done our own inner work and are just projecting our deepest desires of needing another mother or father figure onto the lover. And I think this is just so ironed into the propagandas of relationships since day one, where we watch the Disney movies with the Prince Charming saving the princess and end up perpetrating the savior complex. Like really, when was the last time you watched a movie and it was about a main character who was just feeling whole and content and actually ditching all their dating options? Like somehow happily ever after is only tied to an external partner, and our inner wealth can never be full if there's no yin to our yang. And I noticed this for myself during the first 10 years of being single, where I was just subconsciously looking for partners because I felt like something was wrong with me, and really thought that having a partner would be the band-aid to whatever sense of lack I was experiencing from within. Like one of my biggest fantasies growing up was a guy being able to lend their shoulders for me when I was going through a tough time. And it wasn't later on during my own healing journey that I realized I was just silently looking for another version of my mom to emotionally take care of me, and more importantly just show that I was actually unable to really take care of myself. I just existed in a state of emotional poverty and thought that only someone else's love could complete the sense of emptiness coming from within. And later on, as I was doing extensive healing and trauma work, it took a lot of unlearning of this narrative to recognize that there were really just actual fragmented parts of me that really tucked away deep into my own unconscious that was really driving the sense of incompleteness. Carl Jung calls this the individuation process, where we had to look into the depths of our shadows and unconscious to pull up those unpleasant memories or experiences and bring them to light so we can integrate both our facades and our inner shadows, which includes our shames, our deepest desires, and traumas to become whole. And it wasn't really until I did the hard emotional labor that I started feeling whole and feeling like, actually, no, I don't actually need anyone else to complete me, and I really only want to date if it's two whole individuals who learn, love, and grow together. And on the healing note, another big reason why I stayed single for 13 years is because I heal better alone. I think I make it sound like, oh, he's never gone on dates or had sexual encounters with guys. Nope, I have been there and done that. But what I noticed was that when I was constantly dating and sleeping around, it might have felt good in the moment, but what I was actually doing was just taking the agency and alone time away for me to heal properly. Because I was so insistent on healing my insecurities and shame through guys validating me, I actually never looked inwards, and it just ended up feeling like, oh, I just feel this way because I just haven't met the right guy yet. When in fact, emotions are really our own responsibilities. So it really wasn't until 11 years since my one and only ex broke my heart that I recognized that, oh, you know what? I have actually been single all this time because I have so many wounds from that relationship when I was 14 that I wasn't able to process, and basically that triggered a full-blown investigation of my own psyche. So I really have to credit all my trauma healing that I was able to do on my own without a therapist to my singlehood, because I didn't need to tend to or rely on a partner. Like I had no distractions and was just present for myself to work through my own issues. And I think on the flip side, you can think about it in terms of couples too, where abusive, codependent, or emotionally and sex-starved relationships all stem from the fact that people entered into those relationships expecting the partner to actually do the work for them, whether that be playing parental figure, affirming their insecurities, or filling that emotional void. And so arguments, breakups, and divorces happen when people realize that their partners are not able to fulfill the need of taking away that loneliness, their incompleteness, and their fears of dying alone. And so those are all just signs that people seek relationships to heal, and I do think it is a possibility, and for some the most effective way, but it really just gets into murky territory when you're expecting your lover or partner to become your therapist and your mom. And at that point, the love just feels really transactional and conditional, where true love does not really exist because the love that we give is coming from the empty self. So being single really helped me become whole first, so I can start having the love overfill and flood my cup in abundance, so I can really give it away generously rather than just tiny bits of it away, hoping that it would be a good emotional investment. So it was never really about loving someone else, but finding ways ways to love myself before I can really love others 110%. And kind of on the point of healing, my hottest social commentary on the dating scene in this video is that honestly, most people are just children at heart. After I've done extensive healing work to find that wholeness in myself, I started seeing how so many times people just have this inner child, unconscious shadow, traumas, whatever you want to call it, still dictating so many of their actions and still kind of being an unloved kid at heart. Not going to elaborate on this too much because it sounds like I'm dissing, and I truly do think that everyone has a lot of potential to emotionally adult, but especially with men, including gay men, age is so deceiving. I used to go on dates with older guys thinking that they would be more emotionally mature and in tune with themselves, but nope, nice try, Matt. And majority of it really has to do with how society has defined such a strict code on masculinity and therefore denied men of their inner sensitivities. But most of the time, say someone who is 35, I can easily subtract 10, 20, 30 years out that age. And I used to keep thinking that, oh, my standards are just too high, and I think yes, they really were given how insecure and ashamed I felt about myself. But now that I embarked on my own healing path for a while, I don't think it's unreasonable at all to want to date someone who is also emotionally mature as well. So far I've been focusing on relationships on the romantic level, and I think that's just a very narrow view of looking at love. When we think about soulmates, we automatically think about romantic partners, but something that I've learned is that there are just so many types of soulmates and so many ways to love people. Like you might be romantically single, but you could have a friend, family, a mentor, or even a coworker soulmate that could be way more meaningful than a dry romantic relationship. And when I started leaning into this mindset of seeing the abundance in soulmates, it took a lot of pressure off of feeling like a romantic partner was the only way to nourish my soul. Because at the end of the day, a romantic relationship is not the entirety of who we are and should not be the only defining factor of our lives. So when I focused more on my love and attention of my friends and family, suddenly so many people became my soulmates, and there were just so many ways that people in my life brought joy and love into my life. I might have a hobby soulmate in one friend and a sensitive soulmate in another friend, and it makes me cherish those friendships and relationships even more. When I was so in the mindset of the only way out of my singlehood and misery is through a romantic soulmate, it actually made me feel much more dismissive of those around me already and kind of placing them in my head as second rank of importance. But when I learned to actually love my friends and family to the fullest capacity, then suddenly being romantically single didn't feel like a burden anymore, because I'm already coupled up in so many ways beyond the bedroom, and when I have so much love in my life, I am already truly so happy and romantically alone. And one final reason why I've been single for so long is because deep down, I really believe I will know when I know. It's such a cliche, and I've always just felt it to the deepest crevices of my soul, but because I kept imposing that sense of timeline of needing to meet someone or getting married by a certain age, that I really wasn't letting my intuition guide me. And as I individuated in Carl Jung terms, I've just come full circle back to this conclusion of letting myself fall in love when it feels right is just my own act of trusting the process. Like, yes, there will be situations I need to put myself in to be conducive to meeting that romantic partner, but so much of this whole dating and relationship thing is just beyond my control, and so like any of my other soulmates, he or they will come when the time is right. And it has just taken off so much pressure off of me to feel like always needing to like scan the crowd or every social gathering for that one to fulfill my mission of meeting someone, and honestly just end up objectifying everyone and not seeing people for who they are. So letting myself lean into this intuition of I'll just know when I know is also letting go of my tendencies to want to control everything and really lean into my singlehood while I'm feeling super content and happy. And I know this will make some people flip, but who knows? It may not even happen this lifetime. I might just have an infinite rebirth ahead of me to meet the so many soulmates ahead of me. Thank you, friend, for watching this video. I hope that my story of my long dry spell can help you understand your own relationship with being single, or even a relationship with a loved one if you're already coupled up. I would appreciate a like and subscribe, and even a share for someone who might enjoy this video. Did I make this video 13 minutes? I think I did. Anyways, take care.